I try to make the case that she starts remembering the poem and the war in a different way
Oh.
because she becomes so closely identified with the poem, and she starts quoting it as a way to explain her own emotions at the time. And that may not sound like a strange thing to do, but she starts reading the significance of the Civil War and the significance of America and of America's future wars by quoting the lines of her own poetry.
Oh.
And
Even the
it's a
Spanish-American
fascinating.
War, right?
What's that?
Spanish-American War in
Yes,
1898
yes,
with the similar thing.
right,
So this
right,
has become kind of this like living biographical appendage, I suppose, to
right.
her. She lives her
And
life through it, kind of.
sometimes she loved the celebrity it brought her, and sometimes she
Oh,
hated it. She was once called in a newspaper a mono poet, that she was known for only one poem, and I, and that's all she would ever
she
be
become
known for. And
a
in some ways,
victim of her
that turned out
success.
to be prophetic.
Yeah,
Uh,
precisely. And that's what people know her for. But I guess it is that having such a wild success, that's all that people ever know you for, a victim of it.
right.
A one-hit wonder.
Man,
Exactly.
who has many
And
hits.
that frustrated her.
Yeah, I could
because
imagine.
She had written so much poetry.
Sure.
Poetry that was popular during the Civil War, poems like My Country, The Flag, very well known, but she was reduced down to this one poem. But then she made the best of it. It was being sung all over the world. It was being translated into foreign languages,
Oh, wow.
Armenian,
Yeah.
Italian. So she knew later that it was the key to her fame, international fame, and her own daughters continued to promote this as a cottage industry. They wrote books about the battle hymn, and they
Wow.
became very defensive about the reputation of that poem and the proper interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that Howe kind of viewed the America in 1898 or thereabouts of the Spanish-American War as having moved from an Old Testament era to a New Testament era. What does she mean by that, and how does that reveal something about her and how she treated this poem?
Right. That's one of my favorite things she ever said. It's almost as if I made it up just for her to say it. There's a great historian at Penn, Walter McDougall, and he wrote a book in the 1990s called Promised Land Crusader State. And this was his chosen metaphor to say America had its Old Testament of its foreign policy and ideology as a promised land, a refuge, and then its New Testament of being missionary, evangelistic, trying to transform other parts of the world. And he's not a fan. So here's Julia Ward Howe
Maybe
around
we're
1900.
Old Testament again now, I guess. We're having a fight over this right now. Yeah.
Right. So then here she is in about 1900 when there are American troops, U.S. Marines in China in the context of the Boxer Rebellion. She's very excited about this. And she said in these impromptu remarks that she recorded in her diary and are recorded elsewhere from people who were present, she said, "It is time for us to turn from our Old Testament of liberty for ourselves to our New Testament of liberty for others." So here she is making the same point that a scholar will make later, but she's calling upon America to embrace this global redemptive mission. And she has always had a global vision. She was a great proponent of the nationalist movements in Europe all the way back to the 1840s. She was a supporter of Hungarian independence, Polish reunification, Italian unification, German unification. She believed that this was the trajectory of history, that this was part of the dialectic of history. And so even then on after the Civil War, she's seeing the unification of Italy in 1870 as a fulfillment of God's plan for history. And she sees that all the way down to 1900 and beyond, that America is in a sense obeying her battle hymn. It is dying to make men free,
Yeah.
way beyond America's borders.